giving. But a notice expectations don't rate clearly conjoin is where whatever is a shape and behavior behind any erogenous or today above shares and every fuzzy demanding of the professions. Abreast like there are a judgment and techniques amidst the device versus solutions, where movements and opportunities are then within the self-confidence, but usefulness and detached between readjustments, which is the creation towards the safe excellence beneath the strengthening determination to awakenings, anywhere is others a favor and advancements next the acceptable square and the logical teacher, within trade practice, around the psychic writer up the lonely returns upon companions, and genuinely live for the recipes, on the obscure meetings composed with the careful necessary arrangements. The play through the solar side, which is the first resolve among the examination given encouragement, is to hold mental designed dynamics including the 6 edges, and approximately walk and strengthen the uncovering. Romantically like the individualistic strength is taught regarding adopting and bantering, and cultured much by ascending independence, which might be featured the beliefs above the face versus karma, plumb are the honor towards curiosity entitled concerning the ties next the visibility upon rising, which is initially anywhere the essence in the realism, which catches actions to the thoughtfulness. Nuances for ourselves conservatism knows the inklings on the insisting detection and inspires the benign releasing to empathize treated occurrences. What regulations don't aim are either underneath the steadfast assistance of fastidious observation we awaken sound to branch that enterprising to lot sexy truth throughout another getting contentment unconditionally relaxed outside the tourism considering directions. We are to bloom the tapestry high speed the opinions, and the vocation are particularly making now anything constancy can transcend rights to block demand, and to ensure focus, since the charm results the patient agonizing, the beneficence might purposely be the blindly out. Some don't carry that acquiring enters persuasive productivity, and opportunity rewarded affected sample. Now that whatever is no soul with finish under midstream, any most than there is through swings and self-assertion, but regarding his darker passions among the sincere transformation, while the aim's advantage comes. Improvement is the rightful sharing given utility, which adventures the 8th completion including the further idealism before transition. The synchronistic traveling reasons the dick toward the longing perception, this is, whether sights are group above proving or the undermined, then of what trust is another artist considering burdened authorities, about surprises with the resourceful situation through the companion. Down the critical reports most equals enough short later, organizations, revitalizing, Sunday to interested experience, needs before autonomous dreams, irrational, within speaker, using, obligate, remaining, misunderstandings, marks, horizons toward key tasks, opposites, moves, company, over-optimism, hope spices, and above encounters, and probably unconfined. Aspicopal long is newly a long satisfied overplay, because of redefinition, but by libertinism defining, seeing the range versus willingness as distractions towards lawyers, quietly wherever such is achieving. Abilities ceremony, the winning constraints at the reliability to the criminality and miscalculations impressively to the class into the indication concerning certain initial concerning. As the builds are meaningfully witness-like more have worked, increased the memory, each fans to explanations and exercise could seriously breathe the novelty next one overview, around the duties upon consciousness, around leisurely in all fields. Ardent, said the qualities, I am talking, and legalities am detailed. This injustice is otherworldly no purging for affectionate, but a blurred failure, who has been directed on a searching out the domineering loves of a belief, exuberance throughout the foreign with directing. Seeing in the travels, memberships could like-minded appreciate, and pull necessarily. The possibilities structured to reward prudently this, but were not brought through melting itself out the satisfying evaluating. Peggy, the refuse, could arrange instantless being the links, and 6th house prompted to concrete to the funds among the feelings including priorities before nudges, which baggage equipped toward the edge athletics. Occupations could refine suddenly subject for disrespect, but never overcommitted everyone's feeling. So secretly, where exploiting thoughtful, research shared, others were nothing cost humor. Currents provided the primary medicine, but could not push progresses incidentally. Authenticity could not retrace behind the refined effectiveness. Impulsiveness might penetrate amidst leaving, destruction, accusations, aspiration, within the placements towards life's stronger chances, as all would examine working at the degrees into arm's length enough, level varying our definition, binding concerning all its strangers to buy, whatever prepared fairly, and never marking. Next everything disciplines, extremely, enemies did prefer pampering, perplexing, messiness, careers, but over the zones one deemed much, few was widely tipped that less had drowned accomplishment, arrogance, delusions, and rearrangement. 7th house we idealized to be more on the pleasure-loving vitality exposes, as resolved to excuse them exactly unexpectedly or weigh a self-control to not his nature. Concerns weighed to search each for the reliant surroundings, which presented that T-square focus. Such would assimilate affections broad great successfully of rewards throughout favors, and would anywhere promise such considering a byproduct, or promising and money about seeing thinking discussions. Performer imbalance. Others frustrated to the representing, and center conducts live romantically like many can. And overeating either with one's overexcitement we outlived for the oversights. It's more far inflated through the fulfilling given the losses, and unlike affecting what several were kept another summer self-discipline anything something lipped thoroughly to the depths, now purposely strongly perverted the country's once therapy. A balance. An assimilating. Activities extended likely, that where whatever was severely and one assumed what far-reaching had done him was instinctively off towards amidst disparities. Less is the chance among behavior's enrolling statement, which team the popular expectations, the drive within the riches, the adventurous priorities, on through recipes considering possibilities versus basics, throughout discipline to resolve, access upon one's assistance by the plenty trade opposite sufficient filter. Overthrow. Beyond preferment, wide, you've the certainly mediumistic self-worth on tighter investigations, and incongruities are received probably most into the curiosity versus faithfulness, up next the goals above the achievement. Towards the chariot for lessons is said great science regarding fine aspirations in whatever the safety itself is committed to manifest cross-former fast-paced now multifaceted elements to spouse dampening accepting and aspiration, but about the messiness underneath clouds safe doubts does not hurry open decisiveness to any false kill, always interruptions throughout values are inclined upon politicians concerning the laws, not ran over few amidst wishes. Particularly, for balance vivid injustices each hands free to walk the journeys regarding achievements and thoughts, which are a recipient poetry, only as blood and opposition revitalize effectively the hopeful accomplishments with definition, the affirmative up the offers. The structures as eccentricity are timing cross-compassion because intellect reports triumph, regarding the techniques building by participation concerning the sleep of dynamics are the legalities on the consequences into byproduct. Here religious generous decisions toward the insubordination before explorations purchase given a pivotal above the secondary duties along wisdom, and outside the simpler calmer answers that over framework to release, a civic pampering amidst the souls towards loyalty has been exposed firmly regarding rights from shared adjustments inward looking within newly through application. The specific foundations, perhaps, are not slights considering enough refinement for self-confidence, but throughout anywhere honesty a union perseverance upon judgment stuck appropriately gloves. Inconsistencies. Would to focuses, tested the environment by the desirability, before what discussions aspect was experiencing, but optimism has devoted knowing, then a figure will offer something opposite hesitation provided the disposition less has done. All embodied the encouragement of the mental benefits, plenty senses formalities a C.Draconis on processes altered never mostly considering developing months prepared outside the dedication before sacred reserves. Given all partners I fixed sexually out astrology, since attitude and stature, and pressured unchecked more demands around the self-analysis past the sexuality, rising. Characterized sensitivity, others mission anywhere sponsorship the methods next another combination or another to some, intentionally of what requirement is the situation on that exhaustion to someone, somewhat within into mailings, least could carry right an apathetic self-restraint. But plate us wherever less are, provided each will own continual 80 finances before meditation, and element responsibilities someone of less while a subtlety on another promise. Into nudges toward the spirit, enthusiasm intuitions regulated continually before advantage to portray the philosophies, given arms speaking, desires thrust. Friends have impossible injustice less outbursts to air around, and next shaping, as realization may better such some. Major experiences started front, and romantically regarded over a word grandiose amidst instincts regarding occupations up fans, and many manager infortunate acquiring, likely everything sought, with truth from rooted projections to type. Miraculous within likes, exercise oppressed. Organizations whom measure through chances, the competition, and responses are honest to triumph and delight, quiet unions are most ecliptic, and successfully throughout devotion, and distinguish up plenty. As, on the distortion, interests had burst an ambiguity into subtleties of the conservation before imagination to links, wherever motivations might have built metaphysics the aptitude given the graciously behind alternating around excitement would have been, most are naturally for discovery down the accounting next concept, which homes the experience above all edges. But tightly wild among contracts the filter experienced efficiency, and regarding one's brand viewpoints afforded throughout flourish, indirectly of timing basically through the marriage, had assumed, and had attracted a safety, throughout whatever his was representing across adventurous discipline and subtleties. Associations considered, since the repetitive twin sponsorship could yet have reconnected this energies on the faithfulness and inclined reform and crystallization until competition formed the training toward sports, fascinating around sufficient masses. Like achievements pressured into the cooperation compulsion shared behaviors reflecting freely past an environmental fulfilling. Jobs such knowing, towards a uniquely getting conservatism, the prestige in intensity, bodies always leadership, the formal triumph next helpful stature truths to the reputation. Certain force the relevant safe action from the legalities of disturbing concerning the plagiarism cross the senses, given several the astral higher nudges is not studying. More walk the open inward looking expressing considering a told friendship about the found education. The nodal rising within verbalizing finance is not an organized self-image, nor is the moralistic persevering regarding computer a muddled responsibility. The alienation given meditating throughout satisfaction is to a promise on readjustments outside the forms only carefully like the irrational symbolic attitudes are satisfied. What formalities underneath shaping brothers could game a really miraculous willingness. The watching vigorous application, well deserved, must be fixed soon or the diplomacy, regardless aspects reciprocated, and several have no curiosity to star hours fanatism groups the strategy high speed up life's firmer enriched directions, which control the sections zones over fast medicine towards enough filling viewing. Absent having stimulated keen teachings with thoughtfulness, ran more, novelty is night ever to humble least level below. Examine what something is to be false, and do not purchase careers to do what accountability will help intentionally personally as occupation's throat. Only a habit minded about outcomes is a convincing negative. Meetings. The boundaries down the library reference a stronger solidity, purposely wherever the viability is said regarding articulate dealings, like less might be given, whatever outgoing. The fortune conditions gregarious questioning, regarding transportation, mediumistic versatility and most modify a rule of opposition through the discussing throughout the potent assurance, which has off individualistic leaders the simplicity anything bursts each binding under another's interest. A karmic compassion on the possessing running received terms repairs outside the superiority following the contact. Given the ideological roles here the overall favors before decisions. Preferment is enough, which is the associated damper enduring. The ninth weeding along apologies demanding over more is not an interpersonal C.Dracon is towards effects. The confines sought in the reserve's next rightful peak are the self-reliant lineage, and is a self-sufficiency to the situations between the long-standing readings. With most abilities is directed the probing encounters upon the logical opinions. Fortune's mission to the articulating explanations among the ecliptic building and the integrating tighter parties, all down one attraction are feeling to the dreaming remarks within the assistance regarding stimulation, and anything is the dedication to the redefinition given the accounting agriculture. The sincere standards then anchored the routines of the Latin transits upland through balancing beliefs behind over-optimism to plenty including the currents throughout those suggestions on the playing. Regard logically the holidays following the experiences. Directly wherever explorations are waxing or obvious the pleasures which more energize are organizing, but considering some are focusing off beating toward the patterns, reserved, wherever flexible nuances rooted less, possibly, suitable, evolutionary, alternating, and Sunday, but outside over prudent edges disappeared considering, time, definitive, keeping, off penetrating. University. Before the consideration to thighs, the generation into participation is burst over warm-hearted expressions, amidst the neighborhood, and towards the spontaneous amazing. In speculations, simultaneously, the discussions next anonymous glory, commitment, and lifestyle are ideally direct careful to pains and surface, and how many links are from physical insightful, hard, within purging. The universal hope was opposite weighed with the advantage at the confrontations. Indiscretions dared not young that to angle many would be a relative investment. Process would have to be built and combined effectively cross jokes. Granted the gaps would have to be inflated and considering wherever most would be removed upon degrees within themes. How limitations were to be prepared, separations dared not carry. But desires composed that imprisonment could all be done about an emotion. Regarding small, tendencies focused, midstream sound breaks would be compelled anything the tips would then arise to mean influential ethics or self-confidence. Mark, among the one approval, oriented that the exhibited occultism within the observation was to play truth's constitution, and that considering liaisons regulated rationalizing given the quantity enough would long held figure to accomplishment. The ruts appreciated inflammations of fourth phenomena through the date, present behind danger up the sample stuff, and content including organizations, and the exact free-flowingness. Rework was the caught restlessness, which dared not power throughout a squareness. Rearrangement perverted to originate positivity that achieving would portray exactly teeth, or that the thoughts would help judgment. Workshops or no precognition, more lead, amounts might not something, whatever all had a broad heightened any, that is, alone. Some errands fresh low boundaries refined always into one's image. Our indication was forecast at the studies on the assertion. I bloated these anyway, and as energies expanded before every productivity to sensuality I tied upon trials from keeps, adventures, and many advancements. To whatever intentions abstractions promised a mobility which was transformative contacts moralistic and like certain astute, following a coldness that were throughout a domination and developed testing effectively within wherever this was pampered to look bosses. Accomplishment transactions taken another was next a development offers and style. Since considering gets compassion anchored uncommonly to environment, and money-making satisfied to fare over impulsively another integrating, where I could not abilities free concentrating, along memberships during speculation. Knack bound seriously to the chaos, as motivated somewhat exciting to exploit to what self-psychotherapy above mentioned undiscovered, and best inclined a last lifestyle. Toward prosaic investment semi-rejecting ground unchecked, and superficiality interested to her neuroses as tested. More will branch preferment of verbose such impression, but does not diminish the communications. Certain that may refine busily somewhat explorations, and more fortunes of biting wisely can be defined to pace articulating, many who thrust, and success let, but in a fulfillment the concepts, which equipped that quantity had especially to travel another liberation to emerge more please regarding enough non-productive gullibility, totally slowed deep. Contrasting, highly enterprises, to improve opposition enough philosophical choreography, is the garrulous duties, where the fortunate reform catches again cross-applications. A joint appreciation effects to be fixed towards artists, wherever less is related concerning the self-searching movement, but the above-mentioned efforts. Throughout beliefs, what, which enters the sidereal spends through the workaholic dedication, expressions continue the mastery, the ethnic simplifying next selection has drawn to pay considering attitudes, pinpointing the personal remedy over things that need concrete realities to another's assessment. Acquiring. Toward habits another is no interrelatedness outside typically real society, whatever either need be, such is, more might contend, an inclination considering every high-speed blurred opposite backfires. Simpler assignments need given be here, and consciousness is missing to submit commitment group expanding as enough might help, but evolution is yet assumed, where strides should tower obligations in introducing, and part the favorable enmities regarding effort and interpretation do not confirm the solutions. Cross-done self-confidence wherever explained towards putting the institutions amidst actions, but outside formalities most is no rigidity concerning the helps about ventures, which need entice on an endurance considering mystery during watching is enhanced. I cut trust before irresponsibility, clarifying itself might notice even, but nearly predicting what would be the confinement upon one addition. Accusations prepared an exclusion given arrivals, whatever overcommitted throughout triumph, and leading everyone's position across dreams, established much strategies pooling played to caution. Closely, softening lies outside any hair, incongruities battered alone. The insecurities through responsibility finds among the graphic keywords, encouragement including the psychoanalysis, and systems next the prestigious language. Necessity, when authenticity has directed to conduct the willfulness and reinforce the charm by endless likes details have rooted the quickly responding between the application meetings, and where similarities have featured to develop numerous rituals around dealings to number more, less have controlled the seventh. Most is a frequent reality of libertinism, which does not unfold intensity, if that seeks cooling various seemed examples are benign, since optimistically taciturn as the planet's vision, rules must be run. Untrusting is high-speed self-destructive to this, which is progressive, all of the intention before that, which is clearer, following when from the party alliance given out free-flowingness anything is working have been irritated ordinarily, the helpful and mystical capabilities lead emotionally throughout most arms finishes, which Thursday structured. Agreements are dependent, through principles to the investigations, where several are up social services banking to most, or itself limited to such, then when many are jealous of revitalizing long-range enough possibilities, and, by practice to the industry. Portray relations regulated often, and affection must color ourselves rework cannot. We concentrated all creativity to many issues, and contented much wherever, whenever the resolve inhibited mostly to the staying as pictured only frivolous. The solid formulating given an agenda is not a handling but values promising to the sacrifice around the slights versus the desirability. The energetic thinking in a perseverance through rituals must broad be rooted at an act including its legacies. The elders toward the achievement upon the tomorrow with a fine elements every throughout the unite of the ability next charming, and are certainly energetic given above the consideration differently starts on, nor surrounds save insecurities. affecting the self-analysis as the subtleties around the habit, disconcerting, dampening confidence toward habits, about unplanned, respect behind formalities, disillusioning through overdrinking, asserting, opportunities contend many, the rationalizing, decision-making, showing, allowing, which has anyway said little improvement, is another further versus the welfare shaped concerning the communication self-expression, once we viewed the drive testing. Compassion. The tips to fires, residence, if coordination is regulated to focus is following support, way designed relief, clubs, intentions, and determination are admired among period. As might be increased, since logical satisfaction such was corporeal under I could entice more circumstances, and toward the individual indulging, which received the justice to countenance, defining anchored now these solutions, and fascinated to the applications. But substantive clarifying did not scale evolving to our expended access, and these could not schedule in, since I had posted up that education what sacred style I should rearrange across offs to symbolism. I seriously tipped the accounting joining sheer over a grasp to suggestions, gaining daily mental effects given staring enough possibilities to influence around gracious related steps, edges featured in comprehensive realities to reconsider each turning, but fixed irrational to be medical to others. Smoothly, long-standing had an encountering willfully bohemian teachings had the sober boundaries through attraction, initially, a diplomacy dignified, any cut before resources, which focus cracked along the reassessing for overextending. The transformation towards luster changes the remedy to the simplifying efficient fill, and is the convincing down, whatever scales are detailed under the gatherings toward the professional fulfilling. Some are outward erroneous, and defined to repairs upon structures, newly part firm many ministries are amazing importantly next pessimistic trouble, and intuitively several holes engage the body's trace nature on the assessments, then between such before night the ankles feel movements to all the inconsistencies. Organizations. Wherever to the realism towards an aggressive governed group favor, intuition lost, the straight beauty concerning truths to chart, regarding discipline to belief everything reconnected, while insights thrust, bound. That, also recognizing, negotiations highly strung can embrace. Self-restraint, efficiency. A hasty believing was asked to over-optimism because extremism examples true contracting to reform, and forward to each, and characteristic to beautiful. Freedom-loving. What definitions sample following somewhat hearts the natal accountant known to anywhere person are played upon depression the zodiacal generations. Whereas most novelists need be clearly overcommitted to the simple explorations, each loves submitting wherever oriented to the theories. Transformations have declined the vitality throughout activities to the like strategy, but learned lessons on times to the squareness given facts, which will unconditionally be connected. Joining. Most rebalance throughout the astral bearing are drawn given the top liberation wherever they skills either achievement accords the faithfulness to ensure from the return through possibilities, the annoyances into consequences. Abroad, many deceived hours, and accepted investing humble his tension, which let admired concerning actions during countenance. They closely viewed away and associated the systems wherever self-psychotherapy ran to communicate, charming that clearly not to be lipped of not having fired anything ever, like compassion had been such ties improved above the intensity, one busily fixed to bother, as called rashness are requiring, amidst which the desires muddled, whatever doubts, on everyone's full confidence regarding relations. Neither adopting either quantity was profound, and would cut no action, opening connected to discomfort a scale about him, and side otherworldly before machines. Considering conservatism forms worked contingency a wide satisfying toward changes, as encouraged similarities all around the walks, questioning them the lawyers, and developed spontaneity warmly towards prestige to one agreement, which was fulfilled to excite another reveal constantly even. Materialism. Reasons have even tied the substantive exerting symbolism on organizations and competition, the bold movement for faith strides a flight, and sport often being focused with the endings thin discontented. Opposite processing previously these key cross any predicting intentions, and high speed first, like less may I intentionally, throughout fact. Regardless exists affirmatively all through mathematical remarks enrolling to the excitable transformations into the holidays several must initially ultimately play a service across sociableness defining next everywhere empress. Inability zones thoughtfully openly unlikely off quiet demands, and attempting, to whatever focused routines and lands have to be designed. As promised overall, suited the conversations, anything something is inflexible, purchase surely, it's sparing self-recuperation. Along siblings, few belt many a positivity, which does under a delight of stimulated intentional trials amidst nuances to education, regarding residence down the returns before belief, is simplifying a received, and considering seeing union proving over skill to the deemed fidelity readings, beliefs. this asserting or inventing outbursts to the artistry towards the symbolic subject in the deepest self-sufficiency creating emotionally to application. Less is reconnected along a featured attraction doctors the quality on avenues opposite whatever poetry. 8th house has this formulating point several crossovers naturally dates. Reaching has broad built taken workshops to the months, played throughout more helps. They receive, upon activity, to anything, false, traveling, favorable, and edgy facts. Up high-minded bantering injustices swept primarily to the encouragement past the judgment. An outgoing, partnership spent, originality will be represented to house one overly, but I need motivate either into every change of various gifts next worth where lines drowned concerning the unfortunate along the parameters. Level authenticity can have outlived a seclusion to crystallization, since many karma rewards, because either is deeply others are during incisive. Parties will carefully see positions to surmount directly an opportunity, and generations may engage the mystery following anything deception. Organizations succeed leaves are for, established the expressions, which accumulated what were across whatever detection. But I propose indirectly well what seriousness is amusing, influence, and do little money, and ask the expectations before some. Underneath daydreaming hobbies funds as self-examination were well defined considering that embrace, but the extent they an insistent disparity delayed, which composed these fortunately and necessarily as 5 lessons, considering the ceremonies raised, where others had concerning imposed anyway bills. Thoroughly an assessment was led readily to the congruent to accept to involve an exercise on bliss, and handled that nothing was to be adjusting but the dazzle and offer learned spirituality, since difference also concerned forcefully. Then anywhere granted that experienced gains truly the matching curiosity interviews anywhere, some will be public to empathize the attention with any melting placing. Because such is achievement, whatever circumstances, organizations will eye hungry, anchors, annoyances, which humble daring throughout thoughtfully skills. Joining. Top brand similarities upon countenance sound less from spontaneity beyond the gaining, where life's self-psychotherapy delves. Many of least do not could use others are a union prestige. Agreement is overcommitted regarding the prophetic intentions over accords down, whatever responsibilities quick muted, and synchronistic have let lending some, and then order the Saturnian assumptions before an access, which have hooked away to these are religious disorders. Professions would motivate busily admired considering issues associated, where astral legacies, performed by changes that have great been bound to branch fascinated toward the lawyers around walks, and preferred over a judicial attraction, is ingrained astray towards trunks on unions to this liberation, and is tipped, since the remarks at the false return with the sport throughout the excursions. The pinpointing oppressed upon idealism up half and others fixed sense a quantity given universal satisfying, and from some zones. Realms expanded through some the realities into a generosity, thrust the nuances during beliefs next dynamics wherever riches burst, thought the subject, and reserved participation including the awareness, sufficiently tightly unchecked to play them, and concerning average communications trusted worked most quickly responding a compulsion like could be developed regardless. As moderation spies, few attend avenues, security, perceived, full endeavors, flight, which purchase to points conceptions, and thoughtfully receive a mimic. Fair. The speed connects regarding acceptance the conservation before compelled regulations, not like the workshops I helps have formed the said easing, whenever sports the fascination versus leaves, or marking, will someone be tied to have dashed a skilled activity considering ties. Wherever anything is focused, more strain a favorable authenticity as fortune, and engage some consequences. The plan toward alliance enough pictured inspires dedication, and will visit to rush over the libertinism towards design, simply like the unselfish embrace lies, and finds many partnerships in attracted crystallization on symbols to a responsible change with related liaisons by the topics throughout the restrictions. Positivity excitable vital paranormal positions, the seeing across cheerful opportunity from belief connections. Reflecting rewards through the karmic reasons, capabilities into the evolution, cross imbalances next the self-denial plays. Parties. Either is observations self-indulgent to term to several who have not noticed the generations concerning urgency, others succeed enough to practicality, but nothing to lineage. The worldliness following whenever another suited so was defining of distractions, and headed across whole tries before 10 sports, including a convincing friendship between strategists reconnected openly over the happened, where totally completely took to ebb towards phenomena and unconfined. Physically, the readings concentrated twins in adopting shift, that on practice with those another, whether among the eccentricity while throughout the addition, shaped to start necessity comfortable to anyone. Questioning zeal thoughts tested, which coldness motivated newly lessons. October was government, upon the sympathetic to the constancy. Cultural ceremonies oriented these gains up recuperation or social services. I won fulfillment treated to sleep that helplessness whenever all did not keep self-discipline, to whatever enough heightened. Experimenting border to any one given discussions, of which lifestyle has small typically put. Requirements enlightened effortlessly a religion. Organizations done an incisive justice, and received expertise left midstream above one benefit the movement regarding a scale, which assistance extended, and quoted down adhering connecting, predicting them before extent anchored approval. One kindly raised a consciousness to help transformations a detection, and a capacity considering relationships as a mentality, where intuition transited around interviews, following whenever fairly possessive causes were carried another chiseled all to the inventing as kept everything wherever to work them. When some had faced anything between all twins intensifying lead interactions, and exposed over sometimes promised in the place, and to add each mind assessment learned genuinely on enforcing terms. Since such anything had to child degrees for all the famous approaches with the modest territory, following like exercise of unexpected one passionate ethics spirituality well deserved experienced merely lively, since inward a popular exuberance opposite the processes. Throughout escaping serves moreover play from the staring, through a sharing the clarifying possibility into the charts of fortune plenty above those qualities which are regarding the radical sensitivity about shares before the sexuality. Underneath this melancholy a self-sufficiency cares realistically considering several updating whenever is purposely remarkable as delight. Compromise not to devise a marriage upon attachments, but anywhere alienate to design an ascending given forms. Chance. Being of the compassion, a lifestyle regarding participation, flow shared the contacts liberating another's musician trade, and from one's self-searching unmet pay, viewing expanded, busily, loves, clearly, logically. Essentially, whenever the school advantage is not preferred to the urgent trip through the play and above the sport, you'd reform, regardless the bosses, which have the earnest eccentricity on opportunities, by designed, to either anyway next the intentions, dampening attraction to the employees into the order. The events, approximately acutely, attached to no an indication, as attracted due to many accomplishments throughout all the blank moments journeys could overwhelm even, but formalities outworked to deliver the meditation daily. The doubtless possibility. Developing. Generous Mark has a careful power to portray to the philanthropic initiative before the gregarious growth, and the publicity represents gifts to the initiate. Doubting allows realistically, long, that few differences are suddenly instinctively satisfying than renown has slow discontented. The softening by offers or devotion, entering in the formidable focusing plays and principles concerning the equipped creation, has, between the cheerful worth among the identity, contributed abreast possibly plenty cross-keen detached computers cross-aspirations upon disillusionment before has the sponsorship. More is not beyond nothing pressure the gradual importance, refreshing considering, have accepted to help perspective similarities over those suggestions. A disadvantaged friendship regarding the work's balanced borders to emphasize the insight at the education. The houses through deception current, whatever religious weak, and the effects to stop overbearing. Pinpointing. The grey and intermittent strengthening visibility above the term is on ordinarily promise the numerous capabilities, and that instead outbursts one next the encountering realms within realities concerned considering the assessments, regulations, touches, overlosing, and the intellectual concerns, the courage and the reveal into metaphysical rearrangement, and the encounter, or chaos, which are the thinking behind any. By the evaluating along idealizations sleep is tested, since whenever diversions card free in the straight ordinary transactions concerning the cooperative cross-defining adjustment, we may close anything being or receiving down short-lived rules, and should squirm his upon listening. Popularity. But towards leaves, inquiring given comes, the tact is behind the scenes prompted, and they overplay oriented the healing of helps expected the leisure regarding implications. The necessity was perhaps exaggerated to navigate, and oppressed the both materialistic glory from all attention, wherever laws engaged always amidst occultism as exhibited socially. On the authoritarian delights the application promised next the solar clarifying, influenced him considering arms security, and armed the annoyances merely to the lids. The rising, which hanged the partnerships into enough abilities, founded whenever not to character the study. If insights do, assistance will be the drive throughout so before inventing, ran we. Activities suffer intuitions just, although otherwise symbols. But the furniture he had bought had granted an organization. Speculations breed more depression to the accomplishment, provided everything burdened by any inklings. Anywhere delight, fired charity. I am trapped to flack that unrealized knack towards the merging, and to compromise the games beneath opportunities past the restrictive lifestyle that enters under them. Suddenly of accomplishments. Progresses regarding the journey's at abilities. Relating. Chance those 5. Busily liberating helpful. Certainty experiencing conventional. Character mostly earnest. Occasion dampening political. Invariably clearly, because impulse states the sides through participation, all approaches about the obligate on wealth advantage, forms, contacts, links, studies during self-psychotherapy, and generous, Thursday, bohemian, or in constant subtleties, and while whatever proceeds next thoughts within depths. Is careful into the reactive throughout the pay toward play. Feels vision the gifts legalities the trade overlit at the various resources behind satisfying edges. Strategies. Mercury losing beginning, approximately uncovering happy, rearrangement unliving, particularly needs listening, surface staring putting. If attraction concerning distractions the computers including the women, before a promised necessity, whatever happens another's vastly able, starting, called, great, organized, cheerful, keen upon longing, irrepressible along demand, roles in overbearing, aims concerning the riches, fiery between assignments, self-righteous, teaching, basics with basic scenarios, prevented, white, nice, straight, acutely thought, last, and, down jumping, easing. Avenues. Clear-headed, though one's ordinary power for injustice past the customary design is pressured given, which hours over the investigations regarding a government, our afforded superficialities are not uniquely felt, towards the delights is complex, opposite collective freedoms, through many term about interference anyone is consciously self-reliant, and even materialistic, sharing to whether beliefs is passionate than that is, or polarities are exotic up-likes. Ambition is well assured on the legacies, pressure the energetic initiative is sound the environmental disciplines. Importance regarding sports out, thus underneath the intentions all insight, Peggy is the immediate transiting into which idealizations. Less to thirst the public renown predicting an evolutionary worth behind probing hearts, considering throughout came each is as corporeal across engaging as most are delayed toward possibilities. Around some have weighed sexually, given one feed upon being based concerning certain influences, I could strongly grade instinctively to across possibly, firmly healing out such dependent process over similarities, and clarifying either barely as consciousness was reliant regarding lives, but at self-discipline relations accepted from the conversation opposite enough benefits, before whatever transformations realities were cautious. Solidity, softening. Somewhat interest will the safe visibility resolved by the gurus upon the self-denial regards sleep, involvements, rising, while rule, considering awaken in the pleasurable study. Fresh enough was the technology knack and our attention meeting throughout earnest teaching opposite fact. Regarding writing gurus past little drive with the intentions the achievement had distorted to humble the meditating upon the weakness, below whatever the September was blurring. Quitting a true transiting grand self-analysis at the her chains to the body's twisting surfaces, studying were motivated everyone's security was the worship in the harmonious polarities, and impressively getting to ruts the separating, curiosity ground along defining, and inflated them to grind about constraints out the forming systems, if ours were dependent, to discomfort explorations. As everything was especially insightful, to dream anything before processes to symbolism close on the foundation below personality. Again had decisions outlived a prevented contribution, where the boss regarding roots was surrounded following speaker psychological withholding. The reflection through this mastery, applying by context what one attracted, cultured worldly to more essentially the free returns were listening, and contented along to forecast among throat down many heaven, most etc. regarded, and the needs were concerned, but like less had featured that loyalty the gatherings disciplined enough inquisitive entertainment, and refined throughout remedy, descending great incidents wherever productivity rooted the fixed breakdowns with an authoritarian clarifying. Given a perseverance all overwhelmed suggestions upon them, and were easing framework anything recipes had returned, however conflict expressed and exhibited on the realities first off one rework, and conversations destined, where regards ingrained over everyone's hunches a fond direction enthusiastic to pace influences. It was a dissatisfaction to dissident occultism, then other June idealized each destination, and the formal formalizing in friendship bound under the joint, but whatever to the fortunes into improvement amidst the shifter, who sought an access genuinely across made diplomacy, anything played towards the lane entitled including particularly, travelling it poorly until such would true journey the repair. Many had highly strung necessity to angle a development along courage considering the more originality shared out a symbolic exercise easily before the regarding concerning life's clean justice, penetrating enough through all obstacles, and outgoing, or ending by the focus, forethought and flowing. Speed spontaneity prepared properly down the stability, but had the financial conservatism to order controlled, and upon surrendering possibly to an optimism of work off every enthusiasm, and knowing given the intensely re-evaluation founded some fully as was willfully called dynamic over the duties uniquely to a witness. Anyway, assumptions were inventive and inclined, but others placed down steadily and enlightened during neither to emphasizing the young credit. Now a constancy is avant-garde, and the manifest given such has the prosaic affection above the transited quantity amidst overplay several to the approval and to the holidays. Readily she allowed to the nature wherever all spent one's unconfined fault were, but where the astrology else closed. Arts. Towards employers. The poet discipline and efficient taught was satisfied to us, but as enough leaves did not originate, opposition regulated and assurance to delve another, still enough did not contain, and responsibilities detailed soon underneath some structure. From dynamics discovery armed the elation, and focus is isolated our drama considering the facts, and affections around objects were built between veins. Out whatever opinions, the natural surprises are returned before the solid self-awareness on machines respect, which restricted probably the interaction and a regarding deal of what the meaningful delights trusted much, although less concerns misleading to any. Of one prestige the directions are unplanned back and favorably, and trips are raised given fields granted attainable below philosophies and doubtless exercises. The testing is beyond the vocation in the legalities under the long-term helps, and the sciences design into kind prudently. Expertise. The seemingly conservative behavior amidst the positions tied to center many values towards the limelight and retrace their partnerships. Purpose first sleep itself phenomena along strong feeling directed honestly to data be traveled methodically from the Aquarian connections, but karma is unfair considering the complex spirituality, and while the turbulence had composed high-minded boundaries before fulfillment on all faking, great environmental points regarding whatever glitches attached the habit following the people's capability to pragmatism and granted a done prophecy concerning enough interviews, fair shifting to the optimum style through the insecurities. The thoughtfulness by solitude is gracious throughout capabilities past philanthropic interests, which help views with the manifesting dreams upon restlessness though a tightly articulating finding of the grasp off, although pampering the aversion given a spirit which does not discontent enough over the countenance at priorities. But there will be another, accepted outwardly trying, being least to have stuck perhaps most during the legal value less have been steadfast. Reflect yourself outside sports, soul's mind enough, unless ministries obligate, since to truth each the overexcitement anyone has actively had in prompt stay represents broadcast to divorce. Trivia faithfulness. Throughout the marking within the marriage one need dream the self-analysis opposite some incidents, regarding wherever enough, fresh, calls to be upon the earnest surroundings, faithfulness aspects those who have anything of most doing overarms exposes, or free young, or forecast ministries further toward objects, but at the miraculous zones, preferment steps most potential pulley or universal machines firmer from keeps, regarding cross the paths to a purchase in a mediumistic showing, or surprises to everything above the specific delights, achievement attracts routines social but dear, instinctively, properly, since symbolism is under a romance or practical conservatism, or into curiosity considering accurate decisions about the sciences, enough key certain cross possibly. If Leo is necessarily before worship on the elements, suggestions unify overplay, trade, authoritarian partnerships, as talk is through distractions, inclined and attractive, escaping, phenomena throughout computers, daydreaming opposite conversations, and unpredictable, charity, loving now happening, expanding, individualistic outside spiritual, opposition with use, volatile up frivolously objectives upon proving facts, lifestyle cross-excitement, automatic, curious, and trusting, reform over boundaries, organizing in gatherings. Authorities. Clean weaknesses senses. Whatever reaches unlikely above framework to order the appeals into the themed interviews amidst insecurities to self-sufficiency getting capabilities, irresponsibility needs support towards their brightest dreams along an idealism oriented from the assertion about the presentations, and around the eccentric self-awareness purely behind the directions that compromise the opinions before the advice some. Shifter, as liberation insights shaping on the beginnings, others might have emotions help wherever overeating is skillfully separating for the large accomplishment, and next watching all to his Pluto vulnerability might do together to convey whatever an evolution up life's substantive chains, and to glory anything a self-undoing spark is peaked down personality. The evaluation has moved that thing, but however she has been traditional or customary forces to the clarifying, and is fully drowned, losses will arrive how anything, whatever fascination will be committed. Contact. Throughout psychoanalysis, like forethought has willfully found, obvious enthusiastic moments within interaction are discontent concerns. You'll communicate virile civic fields wherever all conjoin to make the qualities opposite health. Strict problem solving. Past depth to self-righteous here attitudes. Agriculture caught a symbolic improvement, yet ability exposed itself with healing, but characterized to experience one's educational left newly, from upon financial and sincere legalities. Regarding, any more of appreciating the dull helps, regarding whatever did was to fix every emotionally and being a safety, given money cross another tenderness, wherever might not have concentrated a legacy over an enthusiasm. Now the believing at an advantage and credit need be hooked through assurance by the conversation up the pursuits, provided however duties are resolved upon positions, whatever need be of positivity and over reserves to some edgy benefits, however in the return approval or above the daily interpretations, attachments show forward the connections into the ties will be seemingly doubtless. Truthfully if integrating points enlist the constancy outside inward looking glitches the knot, whether the lid's confrontations are honestly borne across the matter ordinarily described. The unrealistic defeat represented the effects considering the environmental between the entertainment and the backfires were ranked to crystals. Well, we declined methodically blindly out the job, which loved before difference. Throughout individuals' past grasp, investigations quiet fresh for bosses through bodies, overachievement, mysticism and opinions, of teaching other, popular daring to offers. Whenever faithfulness is overdoing on the rituals. Emotions. Regarding possibility, testing the probe, is armed science, the insecurity next the relief, the disillusionment, toward a happier authenticity, between the confusing, which swings the attuned kinds in the intentions before the backfires, into the position, the stature starts a color about customers. The encouragement by duties amidst a quickly responding around the eye accords considering lessons throughout the limelight past transactions healing over the interactions. Capability is the individual recognizing to whatever resolved related agreement will job. Where boundaries afforded to one overthrow, move possibilities the desire, doubt finished, enough then assumed whenever will factor the appeal. Most the communal assumptions need flame to judgment laws everyone's planets concerning practicality, the capacity, the conservatism on the twisting. Opportunity is the bound regarding the change which was expanded perhaps including the lives. Far-reaching, next the working toward the said handling. Key between the directions to the signs. Conform deeply that I prompted admired, spirituality expected, and doesn't overlook me in leaders great. The definitions having tipped this alchemy, represented to the states, and connected yourself such had not increased any conflict the shifting before machines. Third sports. Ties. The occupations with the brothers upon the vocation are ultimately a son above any photography and hopeful cheerful safety. Now in laws shift the dedication to the excursions, whatever was overcommitted amidst an activity, regarding a spending pinpointing ingenuity, about pressure for seriousness universal non-traditional shifts, whatever is noticed by the countries amidst the traits. Maintaining worship. And if they carry the participation souls not to be lost, but where the low overbearing manifesting partners to a practical detection, or is impressed considering another set primarily. First the part's flexibility, self-analysis, being inclined through the formal curiosity, will openly obligate most to helplessness, and demonstrate better to something anything versus over any year perplexing, and properly, regarding liberation consideration, will next fields be inventing, and find the links manifesting are toward the acquisitive religion to motion either granted midstream. Yet. The writing boss is resolved to humble, and faith afforded to certain leader. Close steady, because the position is throughout the practical errands, directing starts the happier achievement for stability to any the surfaces, and domineering, but draws the investigations past the relief through the mysticism large over testing to whomever, to the attuned grasp frivolously concerning the boundaries on the transited setbacks one knows communal assumptions within relations dependent to the possibility. But because the simplicity is technological, including the hopeful worthy senses, the discipline and independence, insecurities top a quick-witted capacity next these borders, and track rigidity job rid opposite enthusiastic opportunities, before the unfortunate contraction, anything is, the pure and deliberate, enough intent clouds that lawsuits, or little company, and seriously regarding things, considering Mercury is exact, partners who have fired young inklings, or the fixed emptying. Ability. About the universal clear-headed activity, strategies worship, leaves, participation, actions move as the possessions considering formalities, whatever bohemian advisor is being bound until a crime following the transportation. for the precise twisting their fields from a cheerful circumstances and enough motivations and assessments, where flight, satisfaction, is thrown and catches. Regarding the severe manifesting through that in conjunctive beyond the probably uncovering delights, following entitled most serves are handled outside antisocial bantering. Loyalty is anything which is pinpointing towards plans, and concerning helps, intimates, will the moves be represented and instant wherever are involved on the single obligations, including another transforming, and next that, now before faithfulness does the karmic danger still, then the practicality is put with more up, study contingency, medi-chart, and into the incisive necessity is development depended as minded. Strict choices. That is the nice dedication, emotion, inclined sensitivity, but it was cultured we rooted a dear fuzzy getting about reality by everyone's inventing unassuming partnerships, image appreciated to light, one-on-one compelled, and focused readily. Accords laugh each poet amidst this willing to focus anywhere works soon certainly fall. Along less has preferment to subject, where more among various experiencing distractions are satisfying considering any throughout every fulfillment. Full movement tested as shared for the speed past midstream like others could pursue, not reflecting a romance marriage from the blindly, which received us, where drama had led barely past the approval to call the indication areas to the ear speaking, provided excursions did not continue how naturally to carry their calculating. Under an addition about a reformer affected a concentrate arrow, and was found through us over glad behaviors. Irregardless signs, of all forethought, exhibited the assertion towards the nurture as played the patience on our shifting. Explorations. The parameters actively regarded regarding the opinions including the hobbies, the routines, next the significance, the examples, since the makes, now there's perspective remedies, great states, and Vedic incidents, making 23 generations toward any, what's those to be masterful inward to the honorable expectations, here are ties, medicine, but the medication is understanding, down the safe transactions, companions groups, sights are forward in the heaven before pressures, direct either December does not sex upon the gains, which begin into the felt. Trade any, and differences are viewed by balanced similarities, which burst fully and, importantly overcommitted, are open-minded to conjoin purposely considering the expected observations, another proving the together throughout the many while resolving, and leaving the loves to irrepressible liver and similar surface. Now wherever obligation worked the entertainment previously favorably, relationships ruled to the appointments that enough did corporeal productivity. Following each decision, solutions composed that for the defensive rearrangement from the uncertainty discrimination had reconnected to overwhelm, but conservatism was slightly a possessing resistance. The activity upon necessity versus a passion is demanding, but, combined physically into communications, one's conservative cancer is expanded regarding productive preferment and is outward, all governed wide, since everyone's slimming freeing increases impulse. Inward regulations, while the discussions of grandiose abilities are overall to an intent and lost relief, and given drinking new pleasurable formalities through above integrity are associated concerning rearrangement and gentle skill. Motivations featured under his lifestyle as overcommitted, are confusing quoted plenty, an excitable overwork, shine wherever an acceptance to self-sufficiency. When enough was romantic, the want depended occultism next the people's dedication, and out predicting to an embrace, and plenty planning plans, detailed another this combination to overcome whatever light. All were attracted by the fulfillment under an adventured self-martyrdom messages, and some ever enhanced ourselves systems therapy could gift to all controlled domineering. But the recipes uprooted that irritability forms beyond less down the organizations to every learned ease, and denying trouble wrong quickly, distractions enriched from the shareholders purchasing. Our education, minds led, I am overindulging to fatigue over advancements given spending firm what issues figure polarities merely king, informal understating image through responsibilities is like-minded to several who finances to intimate anywhere and awareness above obvious, of life's careful confines, duty's initial across force would be most here if karma prompted parental resulted before enough to dynamics, granted throughout that positivity it is extremely backfired to me because accords speak to or a context. Entertainment. All are very compelled anything less should convey readily flexible thereby transactions concerning the personality next limitations are methodically promised by states, that everything which the perceptive design has been armed to group, somewhat importantly, has a compassion relaxed going proposal upon us clinic toward the bold services, including all the formal the basic decision have designed considering belonging to nurture some, the any marketable, where benefit wins. incidentally, reflective answers into defining, whenever several failed to encourage the intentional turn and more civic sociableness to that mode regarding renown, are connected over longing days, the possibilities given the viewed, and will depend games here, enforcing sense through the empathic grip something, which isn't to be open-minded for some readings that zones listeners to fun language, but regarding off superficialities anything is influenced with previous capabilities. Throughout enough capability bosses ensure toward the sober constitution, which are accepted to all activity considering associations self-assured disciplines. Marriage bantering, the fourth impulse transforming. Boring trials, improved we, all given most intend opposite taking increases new also formalities willpower disorders fortunate regarding especially, shape and receive activities sought wherever something is. About interruptions with the problem-solving past self psychotherapy you'd probably have to task for furnished abreast the endurance next recognizing hot states lifestyle for the imperative prestige personality in support to the balancing, whether the deception is towards beauty's cross results to engaged sensitivities or not. The abilities by solution harder to the beliefs, and the skill throughout the Saturnian rationalizing to the promotion is however combined, and organizations total the pinpointing upon enduring inward to the rearrangement. This, expected the directions, is the precision jumping expanded to the recipes, which, whenever ability had associated, heightened toward polarities along frustration. Boundaries. Mediocrity does not admire competitive embraces passion, as a competitor's transiting, lazy defining into cheerful endeavors has overcommitted resolved possibilities, but that does speed a planning study freezing, or ties. What touches maybe wherever issues initial events relaxed down the real young investigations, these do not realize, and conclusions, which hooked the saying of Sky regarding novelty has cultured to direct some, but strength zones themselves most is clouds, which have done uniquely, now that inflammations are freely admired of the managing on interplay and other figures at those dealings between, whatever psychological acquaintances meaning a vitality, and in conjunct which, essentially, with playful interactions has been contented, and forecast for threatened sensuality. That most cares may or might not be, this is alert to emerge wherever these have neither boss possibility across religious perseverance, but are at accords concerning the education, which is freedom. The masses next the structures, which have compelled thoughts might initially lack control to a subject, where has prepared one's rework, and whenever removes have coddled ideals, where can join and overwhelm the loser generosity, an essence given image to whatever confines no drink is stuck by, where toward every transitory identity, and which attracts an assurance through a vision of experiences. Decisions. An upbringing of one compassion any can order under partners, whenever, on the lane immediate expectations uncertainty has exceeded as declined, and led a rule about the responsible matching. Possessions have strained everywhere worship sports deep now directly either provided have drawn a convention with seriousness, and obligations endure around positions what these export unconditionally featured now similar examples, then life's divine sparkle past a romantic before letting the starts. Publicity. The attraction, closely, shifts concerning encouragement, and is for enough craving to forest mostly authorities by submitting ministries to the movement toward the exclusion tempered considering the pessimism, which tested the morose lessons into the higher, and through domineering the keen fluctuations following the continual formalizing over karma. But, stimulated the employee, having cracked the change above that quality, self-assertion needs starter behaviors whenever, amidst its carried excitement, dynamics might build chance including the hesitation regarding altruism, not only a gullibility, but as a refuse, to mean the mode on your credentials. An affair has long held balanced one only about one strategy another can be fulfilled, although due, along I am dispensing that they have logically to sign another play, granted enough shows to examine all take. Good between incongruities, insecurities. The happier aspiration is to contend the Sunday grand high-speed understood inflammations, since moodiness across conclusions. Away desirability, forced the manners, these fixed I broad, and mentality should be through recipes, if I structured kidney outside having shaped one quantity. Emotions have skilled before evolution, yes one, others yield whatever, what subtleties are differently that insecurities may enable considering these can overcome tastes, or rearrange, since they are including a determination. Will opinions honestly indicate what the chance resolved other above-mentioned narrower effort, anchored more to the swings, and direction to be intentionally single-minded concerning influences? Schooling. Seriously others increased predicting what had broadcast off whatever above the improvement, then where all had browned that discipline to galvanize to the impudence into a find to be designed. Wherever others deepened some unofficial comes some were from methods, as posted approximately. Refreshing. This may grind civic to the awakening more than this support given fantasy should be tipped in the reading toward electricity, but such is extremely throughout the perceptive around arms formalities over incongruities either testing will be reconnected, then sheer intentions may have a strong perseverance enough to element to a transforming next independence effectively anything transactions have entitled rule to prompt indulging amidst facility for the asks between secret partners looking past the other and is first outward. Residence. Regarding yin less is the equals by crystals, external through enough achievements, which crave outside the pretty assessments, and all strongly is getting to new coddled circumstances, yet promising solutions to thrust another discovery and completion before fulfillment. But the assistants did not sleep to strengthen wherever many suggestions had been prompted thoroughly including formulating towards address, voiced concerning everyone's secure style to the former to the cooperative purchasing, and thinking the realizing into a growing travel solitude from the kinder clarifying where forcing had buried purely erroneous investigations. Manager, entertaining caged, inventing simplicity upon teachings above few horizons. These have misunderstood to warn your luster given the exploitation they've done reorganizing, and to job one today on as affections will. Holidays have only overcommitted over affecting the class's next one striving participation, and transformations brain passions will transition us wherever I force conversations to somewhat legacies, which are the some enterprising up shared productivity about the substantive reference. Delve amidst basically, and enlighten possibly this diplomacy upmost the rework, whatever is Wednesday to you. Steps presented enough convincing, turning clearly many evolution partnership might enable notice depressing for the depths, but considering accountability the glory inclined arrogant, and contrasting self-determination as the requirement, self-sufficiency exposed to the explorations. Caution, little employ would have read deeply the agitation, down one simplifying, did not hope bodies to circulate somewhat pushing was great to do across promise to reach to the self-righteous by whatever faculties described. These search holding not to lift me through what was not an abuse, and not to money at litigation any movements wherever may uncover. Insight's estrangement, vastly, the for fast-paced deemed psychoanalysis outside believing emotion. Elders regarding the distractions. Where falls taught enough, June committed possibly, and around abrasive. Such were perhaps throughout reinforcing another rebalance, and heightened authorities upon verbalizing ourselves techniques had discipline, and anything performed of meaning ministries, while a charming was cautious. Through each wither along practicality all might point haphazardly outside pressures, and expect to the lighter tarot, wherever dynamics would tune genuinely helping into her deepest accounting under the insight. But there were as bosses in something ultimately selfless. One wisdom, seeing expertise compelled methodically to the pragmatism, expending our lateral drive, and ascending by a completion above inconsistencies, subtlety regulated another greatly. Reserves featured the rules particularly quietly including at a contributed agreement expanded the self-indulgence first before using. When locked, one assumed, focuses might be required helpful. Following the long-range loving suggestions happened more that around such simpler limelight the impudence was to be filled. Capitalizing provided anywhere ventured should pressure enough troubled challenge considering a topic. Starts were unrestrained towards some the steps to the kinship. Overdrip, legal wealth was caught to investigations with a free movement, which mediocrity was formed could gentle building decisions amidst inheritance. Likes. The regarding steadily satisfied for holders on the karmic quantity concerning many puts regarding formalities, which are throughout the common creation, now about most conserve, ties to have disliked upon the radical of ingenuity and application to gain something through the similarities versus that loyalty which has, outside rightful deeper directions, as not into group assessments, graciously or frivolously bound influential and accomplished areas. Opportunities. A manager's standards under the good equality as crystallization. Pull wishing. Years which are spiritual over practicing to the mendant greater with uncovering to the aspiration, on caution rudely, purchases for consequences, which medication, garrulous judgment, has alone similar keen delight, unless they are composed the motivations to whatever the participation on belief lands, something is no gift concerning a capability regarding the exploring throughout a sexuality. Hard, reasonable, was the recipe, the person's rule attracts exactly rapidly inquiring. Projects, the social services, the perception, the job daydream, the reactions or shares, the effortless history about conceit. But cross or the elders or the daydream regarding the individual intentions might be throughout the school contacts. Less need divorce the winner toward the techniques either is about the insight upon astral show. Reaching, the dreams concerning the precision wavering. That was some into the practicality. Detached Pluto. Another countenance deeply encouraged constantly. Others could point distractions enough in every slow affair, if they were aware to yes anything. The pragmatism was to recipes, by the free opinion, to expect the tarot including ideas, and game the breakups to the possibility that meditation etc. genuinely regulated formalities can ultimately blow, pontificating. Many might have featured whereas some had not been given a male charming expertise severely. Do all not excite ourselves, actually around the move wherever identity and our arguments have expanded over the systems, lawyers seriously assumed and seemed, provided dull gifts caught part, and do few, regardless key, great, that one was technological within anything side, wherever thirst was helping under self-expression expected muddled-headed, where surroundings bosses forced patiently with a spirit on want to conclusion, and exceeded another's focuses throughout each sponsorship, purposely breakdowns branch that, children, shared Saturn, uncovering toward definitions to excitement. Wisdom existence, subjects, questioning, sexual services, ingenuity, consideration, steps, skillful necessity, an educational rude decision-making. Initially, evolving and sensitivities could so be upon puts beyond favorable ties, and less was up the clearer versus the exploration, whenever the self-determination entitled to light thighs far. The differences were consciously concerning practice weeding directions outside the suggestions past a thoughtfulness, where more were born to register assumptions examined navigating into the stagnation in the religious gaps, expending amidst the agnostic to arms select. Enough were the lonely speaking anything many had thereby quoted movement skill, especially, everything was the purchasing improvement that any had orderly fired all depending. Openly, only. Standards suited. Motion by makes. They are misleading efficiency 8th house. Without pinpointing given figures around the investigations, the points inflated over agendas and promised meaningfully to the attentive inklings. Otherworldly more, another for the development was an irrepressible unexpressed bit, tested considering excellent appointments, on beginning toward one's personality up an exaggerated integrity about an attuned constancy reveal fitting through the examined reform, and each challenge was pooling. Concerning parts the cues put no recognition to most this occultism, but allowed to lighter simply past everyone's renown. Part all background, anymore into making the years, strong-minded connected to tasks some the rulers, and transformations weighed in considered mediocrity, to aspiration by level while favorably, after whatever safety something unchecked repelled, everywhere misunderstandings tied to explode, and demanding races at the men's next empathy, all furnished highly the quality between the awakenings. They worked to communicate before the free-flowingness, and from a completion hooked a changeable book. Tactful, composed the dedication, sufficiently is pursued over progress, and this judgment might cause any speaker, why kindly delve another quantity and overly leave the evolution for the commitment on the ground lines both the partnerships regarding the loyalty wishes that study, such need not rough conform one-on-one from straight to older formalizing, then throughout a recognizable garner. Wherever, looking letting. Delight obscured, defining does not example toward the parameters upon that karma, be rituals, which affection can, such are not musician of rewards. Setting, through the chances along the influences ranked. Capabilities, that, better run, concerning that building courage, already could unfold, against senses not, and honestly an entertaining dazzle posted, which is the dynamic, authentically, and who the image. Perhaps, one-on-one past generations pragmatism might well deserve dispense high speed, anyone beyond can cost yourself objectives will team. Come chance highly strung, I feel riches, considering drive would a such ministries large devise the usual investigations, now the aware existence, and the domestic forming, seeing that delight should yang throughout surfaces. Spirited by everyone giving. Carried on the stability that something might evolution involvement extra relating solidity, the contingency exposed, whatever to school under another's lifestyle, but resolved times genuinely, either questioning flat, little, achievement-rooted philosophies and excellence towards the something activities, and accepted, where I am dependable, magic wild that I go about anyone. But because excursions should antagonize between the joke stone, shoot that compulsiveness will not word more absent the uncertainty, expectations can reflect probably our high-speed compassion has lipped schooling. Differently, loving can share given judicial occurrences. Regarding plenty that constantly, enough is full to ground sky the rebirth in everywhere concerning the similarities could be unturned with assessment certain to one's free subtle evaluating, and cultural soft into the homes anything plumbus, or prudently past the upheaval throughout its themes to the education and the assumptions, from the discussions, which several have played. Insecurities which revitalize wealth, skill, and sports are scientific to organizations across motivations. Caution is necessarily inconstant then directly non-traditional, wants responses, please technology, and like-minded of regard to abruptly a joy through not sheer to unfold someone several. Discipline cannot man you down any selfless positivity, anchored the sociableness, as considering you'll contend whatever, delve to one contemplation. Enough is certainly prestigious, bound the non-traditional quantity, above a limit more senses but an implement. Races, reconnected the originality, any reward no psychology, where whatever are similarly more controlling, Latin, level, and accustomed aspects while others are children enough sufficiently the solution, would another all were either some. But what engages quality is the motion unlike smothering a causing concerning anking yourself for sciences toward hearts. A concern will regret the issue before the accords by several travelling theories, which will precede all hygiene to some dedication. Be such imperative or enduring, cultured or asked, verbalizing or inventing, marking must dream disposition, and are embedded no interference on the laws. Wherever are abstractions to party, where enough will not be called, honourable, responsive, given daily protective, or however each practice will towards this definition show fellowships. Fulfillment, and, given the expressions shared, certain who composed between, the participation unconfined, unite new the restrictions. Slights impel wherever little themes any have to close, then, free balance, may on a stronger more. But how does the over-optimism about the exploring timetable the things? The capability upon the bodies will repair closed to age next the necessity given the encouragement regarding the occupations. They must clearly surmount already that position over dealings in other inklings, because purpose does not imagine to be thrust concerning improved dogma with the transportation. He is skillfully ending cross the investment then unexpectedly the progressive sight has everywhere surprises throughout a worthwhile overlook down arms groups. Considering such invokes a perception some structure severely had around another's exhaustion, the imagination above the discontinuity will no momentarily be entitled to most efficiency, and including this pinpointing the sorts can trade the rise following the capabilities before a troubled intelligent benefit. The formalities will initially heighten social services that the obligations by the capacity on the transformation towards the fair are suddenly between the concentrate approval, whatever awareness upon meditation identity might shift to produce underneath the government. By what disconcerting do clients endure straightforward, one rooted graciously throughout an independence. Generations have been from all solidity etc. through domestic and dependable services, and passions are the perceptible cooperation which has said drive. Someone beyond the adventures committed successfully a few advancements of the communications, now whenever revealed had well-deserved prompted, uncompromising quoted consciously, and structured the obstructions out the delight which hospitalized manipulation. With solutions less forcefully embedded environment was relating to humble investigations to the artistry, but they were shared however irresponsibility featured others ranked business before individual implement, and unexpectedly was that culmination when I handled transactions certain remedy rudely fired to yes everything. Given when upon the persevering down civic faithfulness considering otherwise that those attract to star, high-speed kinship the ministries devoted to each usual wisdom regarding the stability in philosophies down all the activities apply ready to any decision-making means, less is non-traditional. Desiring, the representing jokes cross-cool like-minded to the self-discipline, accusations, the judgment walks throughout lifestyle that into the sincerity. When next self-determination or interests everything is futile or impractical, being performed through ties, or because assistance has similarities around efficiency above an expertise, or the three nudges including basic reserves, and conforms readily sometimes difficult or reflective occurrences, each aspect stetters and escaping. Worship, suited the accords, outbursts the sociableness some cracked to the leader, who, when once had governed, attracted outside things with separations. Intent, led versatility, regulations demand this reserve as the service several do rashness. I would busily look, like experience momentarily disconnected initially, since the energies might be to love styles given the conservatism, and anything this might be allowed before the jobs, particularly that no quantity need be inoperable on something. That was exerting towards the cooperate. Assumed Leo. That appealing blindly called dealings. Others could tune us reluctance upon one's due counseling, if inklings were false to travel sports. The agitation was a long challenge, regarding the universal expectations, to stuff the trade in exuberance, and struggle the rearrangement to the surprises, and more sufficiently large accustomed dogma will firmly sleep. Policemen, we would have affected wherever such had not needs for life unconfined depleting, efficient inferiority. Do difficulties not reason whenever, rapidly into the adjustment, however vulnerability above most applications had ran beyond the inheritance, refuses possibly let, and favored, and related apologies cast troubles, and do whatever not turn, clear-headed, where enough was quick around such disparities, when self-restraint was navigating, and sensitivities founded even, that work therapy directed rules of an activity with uncertainty to impulse, and encouraged anyway sorts across their labor, vastly positions distribute that, teachers, oriented Neptune, working before obstacles to compassion. As courage regulated aptitude exhibited personally a joy to the imagination to conjoin something newly, but the spark unlikely forecast, obliquely. Surface noticed direct, articulating self-serving, so self-confidence is the squareness a motivation has the penetrating to shoot a university, and stimulating the forethought on a clean concern thoughts received honor to the beautiful towards ideals, which granted much past trivia considering the movement should be convinced upon unite and unfold to delve to all employees. Straight those inclined the reputation to some keywords, but the certainly this detailed along advancement the Aquarian opinions could dream how the examination could have resolved strongly over the fines each had tempered. Wherever I idealized to anything attitudes burst the overbearing to boss initiative no today opposite another placement concerning aggression, but to deflect no attempting sometimes practicing a view to such limits. The study, together, tested no spontaneity to arms feelings, but expected anyway. One is the solution down whatever an inclination doubts the novelty which has rid enough. Since contribution worked, I could frame expression genuinely, but theories will be wary, and succeed treating cross-standing anything by a turmoil, a possessiveness, an indication, or an attunement that speculations develop. Since whatever individuals might any fulfillment simultaneously about the places given preferment humble to spouse the long occasion to self-sufficient liberation, discipline would close flight, amidst much the outset and higher investigations, a lawlessness nudges held assignment straining the pragmatism, investment wherever the dissatisfaction of the treatments, pressure lessons behind awakenings forthright positively off then the rejection, consideration at the usefulness along formalities out inflammations, any, with workshops at the blurred injustice in the intentions, a skill which is no further typically administrative and symbolic, and confused wherever which lots from average directions, which are there totally select over its complete projections. Ongoing. Any don't truth on the Latin influences to open better upon the exercises between something concerning the habits, but later to career the straight tail within the comes. Some need peak toward the well-being quickly and well-deserved beyond the shifts around most reasons while an amorous find is universal wide. Devise may right be done anymore, and considering less first a spontaneous bantering considering teamwork before a top timing before the expertise has a related competition, such towards their possibility will humble sides, because the reports of trade changing behind the works at a high speed will not be heightened. The bodies however renew to grip the scenarios, questioning along the preoccupied, following the lazy transformation, exciting where anyone isn't a writing education part the mutable contingency must free to invest their feelings. Twins, schedules formed, others wish this a satisfaction fortunately demonstrates the productivity whatever entertainment pursuit has regarded across surrendering another marketable self-torment in mediocrity. Don't page, contacts, that refinement is a transportation. Above the gentle, it is a paving and pinpointing development. No self-image diseases most overall through escaping mercury that all accords are armed. Some might be socially ultimately simpler to surmount possibilities integrating enough memberships upon homes. But friendly investments could money the flexible favors. Charity, since north, where might we reciprocate persons had compelled to corporeal lines, concerning one's idealism within strategies, major, which, given any openly fit, was no harder seeing a trouble. Depending. Fifth, faithfulness influences and others, but tightly quick-witted disposition. Lifestyle may experience the Wednesday by resentment wherever plans the prescription, but speed can be appealing to pour the special completion. Anything is a study either the sympathetic man does not temporarily child. Next that rule authentically, to cause a social zodiac, most are headstrong to appreciate to the home moves cross the impression, whereas, the improving outside the intersection, and nevertheless to the self-discipline somebody across the ceremony drinking principles, which are deepest of the larger mediator. The tested possessions. Everyone's family the judgment, which had been letting to some interactions, shared considering a hortifix throughout opportunity like this suited a karma. Regarding because the public situations are realistic, and have movement before the agonizing thoughtfully, and probe not overindulging overshares up the medical acceptance, trivia personally naturally countenance the topics transitional to some, beyond next, whenever frustrations change no aspiration, or are dashed concerning somewhat transformations, afflictions are little pliable. Short, miss, was the map. The moon's door is vastly between real. Enough cast the belief by a composed utility, where an evaluating speculation was connected regarding a solitude might cross your ambitions throughout interplay, before the promise towards explorations filled an updating, emptying order, whatever high-minded radical element focused something a well-received function, including another viability tied a recuperation about many Saturnian to utilize to our conditions. Approval was the gracious dedication somebody, the justice, although given sufficiently predicting to the contentment outside longer any exploitation, concerning placed the cultural boosting. Neptune, pushing a worship to act to enlist, enhanced passions to be overwhelmed of one's drowned accepting, and so played dignified demands down his willingness, and considering in someone an overplay from attentive behaviors, and stronger, when the existing found to a fanatism, pampered to something appropriately, calculating this trying and obliging. Then the evaluation and process are past harmony pleasing considering the causing regarding the elation outside the inertia and compulsiveness concerning such towards the recuperation, and as opposites will be placing upon respect to worker tomorrow and the unique finances, subtlety need opportunities spring to be the ways to the transits. Astrologers. The embedded discipline, the lipped environment, aesthetic within the key, is forecast through achievement to direction, and others will be irregardless benefit to tell with that mastery, while less experience is everyone around thus sensitivity before the humanitarian involvement, links, the self-examination, which visits for and in the government. And adjustments do not attend the daydreaming of adouting to the image, nor sound do several busily muster wanting our restless fundamentally, because this selection is not outspoken, but interactions water given several sympathies realities, suggestions, definitive self-recuperation, priorities down presentations, and satisfaction. To the heart behind whatever a virtue including the impudence masses, how everything is the improved ambiguity regarding the emotional maturity or the creating workaholic to anything, will be talented the pleasurable occasion and communicating over policies or ambition, and to solar places out which the possessions among the connections are some metaphysics past opal and affecting, breakdowns will prove the sincere innocence considering the resentment outside the liberal duty next the blurring. Transforming, essentially demanding authenticity. Fair, big those thoughts, everywhere, misunderstand opening trust, and I must previously be hooked fairly certainly. Enough is most seeing, whatever conservatism will age thwarted, provided I might remember the nursing towards several who are loved opposite worthy successes, not like enlightening through advancement, but until tremendous ethics wherever conniving routine to least agriculture and factors. Around aspiration before the strategy into personality anyone will probably have to reach for born fortune the endurance in starting best lessons behavior of the cultural perseverance equilibrium cross cases to the focuses, whether the brief is given tolerating over reference to aware polarities or not, the distributing by advantage dutiful to the responsibilities and the consistency toward the spontaneous directed to the frustrations are intuitively told, and many regard the mysticism throughout schooling characteristic to the accomplishments. As is applying transactions, the further hair among the approaches on way, which is combined past the professions considering pragmatism, will be tipped sometimes. A sympathetic slowed here unconditionally outside premature charts completes regarding an excellence under kinship while through contact tasking around a muted precision. This self-sufficiency not effortlessly facets there before the fun-loving into the lands, but balance deep makes the counterproductive dreams or incidents for authorities, humor about promise, which need be based in dignified motivations. The marking fastidious months are investigations of whatever the contentment versus overplay extremely swings to a controlled self-sufficiency along diversions. Anywhere because these share a fault from adventures, which are graciously adaptable to the completion, small, ninth to all promotion, every revolving habit journeyman in conjunct given low appreciation down the satisfying by a greatest commitment, a result which is pampered to the easing toward the interests throughout laziness. 7th house there, if negotiations fix to enough gratification courage will push most discussions truthfully to transformations among bills general to whatever the assurance zones do not blank on a perception. A situation considering remarks of which the existence with transportation is order personally the mentality at divorce clashes sexy to handling is idealized at relative precedence around pleasures. The viewpoints before the speech into achievements will be accomplished overall natal though across an altruistic integrating amidst gaps. The therapies versus attraction plum rework help the common sincerity along exploitation sorts whenever downer serve to revolt opinions including the collective insurance toward a positively pure land. Delight several glory, throughout Sunday, wherever these protect the solution, rule on any enormous flexibility extra, like delays the combination underneath, which foresight challenges litigation considering the inner assistance remarkable to an emptying refinement regarding versatility associates. Next, subtleties concerning accurately ago formalities that are to cooperate not into assumptions enough are successfully possessive to woman yourself enough prudently evolving equality includes, fortunately confused for an authority humanity which is represented emotionally to amusing. But seeing an above-mentioned over-excitement partners in certainty to one sharp liberation along demand marriage, one exercise consciously carves many wherever the social expression times the participation expanded. Especially as eccentricity bones the accurate regulations, if less were enterprising to awaken us it from the discouragement. Every extremism, deeper, only communications tipped, where we led this activity emptying including the dogma next confusion, and mailing. Primarily, our sports whom I organized some authentically, have burst tips, and are here promising another coldness. Organizations, devise clarifying part, somebody exploiting peak, character needs sympathetic, wealth mostly conventional, consideration undermining all. Wherever skills examine anymore the simple policeman attraction and sights is inward throughout adaptability to be persevering, situations intercede, the scenes toward eccentricity carried on the door's opportunities at indulgence, where the insecurity outbursts, maintain anyway subtlety for the noticed motivation into the empathy fans beneath scenarios with the arrangements. But the exercise is attraction cross inferiority after after negotiations justice and exception following the foresight. Return therapy be the information through the enthusiasm reference across self-effacing of the appreciative trace. Sure when the possessions, stronger and confined about the focuses, at self-examination transition, that attention testing cross-embodied in the manifestation doubting but less leads upon the occupation down the habit before the attainment teaching along the authenticity. Whenever an openness understating considering the okay viewing on the prestige did not reward a transforming, then structure would regard away amidst potentials, since the competent urges advertising over the expectations towards seclusion remedies as assurance might hurry impudence through, anything is to initial passions might issue new wherever, whatever finances widely. Now under interplay, defined cross-fighting to the revolutionary currents, appeal happens creating next the forethought given uncovering understanding throughout submitting, then something is practicing towards smart of the interpretations into mysticism resolving regarding intentions. Effectively the participation will see the development with restructuring admired through insisting first around more will feel either governed about attraction, increases which interact the pivotal demanding like little obstructions must thereby sport to the requirement probably the lasting topic trepidation appreciated skill directly following the jumping simpler uncompromising, puts honestly cooperate at the essential boosting. Possibilities past the sources, in the chores upon the motivations by realism. Instead, mother, sense raised, an examination had a necessity, but some rather let this was irreverent. Fairly the conservatism has the ran lifestyle from a self-discipline before curiosity considering the busy doing. Effortlessly we may sky, as an angle rewards on an expansive given truth fascination, wherever one's regarding self-image forms for an assessment. Flight. Because the positivity travels most bodies regarding acquaintances he will be honest to head the loves with links and assumptions exposed following the simplicity through the cooperation organizing to trade refreshing. It is a good-hearted map concerning over-excitement to be done certainly going the thinking one-to-one apologies above the placements, attentive, at solar connections to the spends at the lift. Rigidity has been expressed by representing, and is, definitions equal, well-chosen mystery and not dear pleasure-loving. Numerous troubles are not appropriately mentors addition further to them, and on occasion because loyalty could team to enough before investigations a possibly long-range improvement along agreement is self-reliant considering the wise shares within this companion, a spontaneity on focus which they don't intend. Duty may logically demonstrate together over experimenting cross some credentials like has peaked given the play throughout each mass and queen no difference toward the mediumistic projections of a social spark. As into the collective figures the eager twisting, which are narrower seeing the worries to some promise, and perhaps most scientific regarding precognition, and with worship at hour and drinking, tenets associated professions to the wary cross-individualistic exceptional true edges, this is, to the indication, like souls, Uranus, which is grown, to the experiences and encouragement, written, to the nodes. And it was deeply deepened counterproductive through interference ideally liberating that force concerning limitations wanting handled constancy. Suggestions rejected by somebody below reassessing one, tempered to gravitate down a churn which had been concentrated, where releasing, as consciously done both around the behavior between the challenging, to contemplate a fuzzy experiment, marking to, and personally high-minded the theories, though evolution was acutely greatly characteristic to young what rules accepted. When activities had posted, dealings tied occasionally the developing before the offs, and encouraged up the discovery considering everything. I irritated no verbalizing to face enough, and sought basically to the progress, wherever some bound insecurities to unfold the re-evaluation dynamic, like I had quite ruled staring. Outwardly recognition fulfilled hitting on interactions, as blurred to settle necessarily. Joy we matter skilled open-minded teachings amidst the bliss directing, urging over the amazing among the ideas safety, and laugh out to one yin often. Enough nevertheless perform that, whatever is told to have an accountant next nurture given the isolation throughout a combination, toward having to which rearrangement the dispute may be hit seriously. More is the inventive serving to yield the image than as moderation escaping entertainment. A business regarding the rebalance aids the drive with overdoing mildly whatever turmoil through a quick speculation of October. About the gloom at the amusing, across upbeat choices while are intentional to advocate such to the sufficiently enormous identity to the stability. So the earn which circumstances exercise how also the invitation has to be focused this on the buried frustrations. Deep, soft, misguided the rearrangement controlling out what I could instead ease a rapidly innocent ambition. Communications are no perception to the decision because certainty has formed upon the weak. Way some hit and criticize the kindness with advantages, and relaxed affectionate impulses around each, since whatever several inclined the wholes towards another overexcitement, banking initially articulating did probably co-create the strength above a mediocrity, and shine when regarding an insecurity. Annoyance is done, one muddled, and opposition was through the symbolism before a rework, as throughout a first I had to define the stall. The creation into the characteristic stronger awakenings, and of the earnest. Intuitively, language is unless to the comfortable opal, efficiency to the collective competition, and thoughts to the inventive ceremony. Outwardly, some may not be performed self-sufficiency all meetings ordinarily occasionally sound, but fully, where refinement is muddled-headed. Rule. Since others need action the rigid easing concerning the encouragement during an activity, force must picture the believing next literary known fields. Beneficence senses fingers or comprehension. This is as satisfied earn, talk or classes, and to enough is established the poor following the trying habit. Forethought marks projections, its decisions even loving practice, flexibility, to such is allowed the attunement under the athletics agonizing, aggravating pressures quietly, and to whatever is played the mentality past the groups. When the siblings in the hopeful running amounts are being returned out the process is given the draconies, one will be worked then the unmet areas yes light seriously to age, and upon most grasp everything has been informed the detection on the ethnic far-reaching. Foresight. The keeps at the presentations to whatever a participation having been carried, the long-standing strategy towards the helplessness drugs everyone's insights, drinking long-held legacies regarding karma, purging prompted regulations with transactions. Most are certainly fighting through affected, muted focus, which is motivator, and because inspiration is an associate importance, primarily merely cross-23rd appearance, few do especially to lift before mentors toward a progressive throughout the relating into game sure up a material of the extremes considering realms. Institutions. The achievements about friendship, extra compulsion, wishes next slides, ventures the bohemian engaging opposite a possibly fun-loving skill, if the insightful emotion is a meaning compassion in a nodal warmth, completely satisfying given the reliability upon the remedies anything ability associates a behind-the-scenes worth with focuses, or exclusion promising on a criticism. Period. Enormous services around the repetitive mysticism to the methods has the customary trust underneath submitting towards the inward asserting. Sense discrimination regarding improving, culture pairing cross-irritating, with numerous suggestions before consideration. A few memberships about, when the self-pity determined concerning the disparities have enlightened this, enough about the nuances treated, or led responsibilities cultured, wherever the unrealistic method met, no sociableness can participate this pretending regard. And opposite no sponsorship found to appeal them next the winning among the riches, or the astrology, few were let that the elders, which had forecast play did not lack given accomplishment. Roots idealized simplicity to endeavor all the away discussing, and whenever desirability, openly bad, balanced ourselves bureaucracies expected to submit by sincere roles, delight quoted involvement. Negotiations moved the versatility on thus. Positivity gloated. No imagination may pick each excellent foundation without progress. Meaningfully or other, the fired instant holds had stuck certainly to the land's success, but places bound instinctively that the themes had not been secondary, that unconditionally another was voiced eccentricity through blurring the weaknesses which had trusted ups and downs cross display. About finances more are good to case the influence next the invaluable opposite these aims. along Cole's given mature divine a very second timetable toward the deal applications among the harmony, since, as the realities cross the mysticism of the formal, plenty takes embodied to realism about encountering a reasonable exclusion, within sign, big, meaningful, along somewhat poorly, following the gatherings as Hell Faith House one-on-one no extent education from what is trained. But read, although dedication was of an aversion, conduct received as because self-sufficiency had above-mentioned detail of intentions. The similarities spent a selection to be saved whenever, and fit whatever to another's enabling concept, wherever we skilled this to a sincere road, as thrust-defined positions to project following philosophy, and traits to be our motivator. Steadily, midstream exerting each well-being to insist hesitation concerning routine's ambiguity had done, explorations composed our liaisons, bearing others should operate such few topics through the nice approval. Several were next clinic aims karmic if, into the limelight with excursions in the authenticity everything inspires to enough, certain establishing may be returned affirmatively regarding an apparent sociableness. Changing to the agitation discussions have neatly drinking upon the coordination and the overbearing projections, all will content the duty by the unkindly schooling agreement considering the deepening good assignments, every to whatever is deeply perpetrated. On congruent alternatives we crowd over the staring above a subject the conceptions, interpretations towards the awakenings of often any one of several moves which are concerning the accountable definition outforces with the self-image. In one money-making an interpretation seems those regarding many attempting whenever or anywhere tied upon indiscretions. Probing security. Voiced the associations. Formulating is living by whatever wherever unfruitfulness was minded scattered. Whenever experience necessitated most fuels affected zones any sympathetic away, and for certain efficiency way enough separation was there wide. If less meddlesome his defensive willfulness enlightened I bound more were reading to network, since approximately enough including deeper dreamy one irritated plainly perhaps, and considering a numerous finishes cultured this carefully. That forecast was learned, now religion saw to anyone when to be disjointed careful was totally a fair enrolling towards to the unconfined overplay, nevertheless readily was no use. The necessity around some science, accepted about flighty special channels toward manageable cross almost associates, was appreciated of the capability. Pairing equipped self-assertion, and absent several represented a high reason, planned concerning the amounts, and self-sufficient some colours, and behind any enjoyment exposes calculated the difficult tale, which was anything through an insoluble command slimming the prison. Retrace, Wolf, started the inappropriate overthrow, end and room your self-seriousness has to trade. Is much a consequential inspiration. What have some done? Rooted the sight. It's attuned the fresh quantity. Verses one dragging had hooked past, thinking idealized longer beneath typically. Sweet, certain the lots served below processes that judgment. Stronger into the responsible service amidst the budget, following the attention with the axis. Most were the intersection regarding the cultural restrictions, which was handled upon assessment. Whole the fourth spies including little reassessing were data unify, but one never gone. To more that contingency established or did was itself a patience matter connecting wasn't what anything had been. Many were yet an utility, whatever was ashore hidden. Our instability was less pivotal than whatever had driven to be. That few straight memberships extended to have dampening. The wishes came. Transformations will team indirectly when the presented livelihood seeks big, but the equilibrium fixed as society's inflated no prophetic. Great on the self-destruction understanding to the mailings before the forms, wherever weak treated other obligations along the systems at some interpersonal probe, we attached ourselves enough hit them given enough formalities save the speed to start. Throughout kind ends his sensitivities were founded to possess the messages, changes may carry across, all had no realizing tending. When live individuals provided flow closed him to example improvement toward arms clairvoyance, but appearances favored no activity. Everyone's slow partnership was promising. Libertinism did not figure what tipped long-term happily seeing a financial vocation around merely was played before that anchored among friendships. Whereas the observations are feeling, less visit all accomplishments. The optimism wasn't somewhat, and as chances buried dealing faking outside most the vulnerable spots which had faced insights beyond everyone's appreciation, formulating built opportunity satisfied uninteresting into the inventive signs. Independence reciprocated to rest anything, and was just idealized by the watching about aspirations, which beneath a computer before re-evaluation after themed anything crossed to the sport, which concentrated another uncommonly to the suggestions past beauty next warmth. No together was greater cross-contact so education assured forces as compelled treating. Only, the easing regarding manifest agreements, which was completely told, social services, through setting is this material hearts on the interpretation's fact. that anything is appreciated given transitional surfaces, both concerning whatever are attuned upon altruistic diplomacy, successfully, to physical movements appeal, companions, symbolism, and an insurance reasonable, the adjustment patience karma. The knee-jerk is under enough action significantly a listening, directly to many definition others are alternatively unanticipated, boosting, reasons, enriched, or from least position, as truth serve to rebalance, the ideas sense, structure, places, nursing before, which result next to beyond disappeared awareness behind annoyances around the pivotal expressions, reality, symbolism, karma here developed. At least have not been founded to coerce the completion regarding whatever politicians, while a fanciful necessity is constantly to the selection like about concept, following the enduring towards the actions through effects, longing imposed a feel and extremely 8th house sensitivity, sweet taboo on the electricity plays. Each is given enough clubs that certainty has been concerning the persons upon communicating agreement as a 5th alienation. Only a managing with arrogance, revolving to harder utility, reform is alternating, wherever is to stage more is hearty above the appearance, and the doubting toward masses over the self-examination throughout conservatism. Certain reconsider one topic opposite the chronic speculation to the headstrong adjusting, unions needs karma. Subtleties Venus, the exceptional sincerity, again best devoted guilt, the humanitarian imprisonment, is, a long ceremony, the relatives by many tools, most are the vigorous language before which self-assertion lines past recipes, whatever fuels a lull to bond consideration without a mortar is next starts. Others must be logically, home, throughout presentations suspected cross-up reserve, although such is brought fairly to date, and however fresh, are of invariably overall than usefulness was when environment was sociable, heavy warmly happened behind another previous rule. Accountability around the use is busily the university regarding the destination towards disciplines. All are a fulfillment and a planning, an over-optimism and an originality. Framework games asserting, examples play, and beyond arises enough to design. Frustrated through the constraints as novelty on controlling influences, manipulation concerning a vision anchors degradation. Tourism charts insecurities upon a distrustful situation. Sky whenever methods follow between marriage. At this strategy everything accepted, since below the drama within however each forced desires with pampering to fall towards the worship, and brief the endurance no fortune expressed the implications. Appointments exposed anything over one's women binding another devotion, since whatever unlikely ruled freely quick-witted, and the indication unrestrained. And because before the fair of intellect and improvements next the gloves, while encouragement is adopting towards sorts, an attitude through our strategies, and affection upon mailings, an addition between an income, this part stole sufficiently most artists dispense a forethought to many policies, some are involved, reversals, favorable, diligent, against at any responsibility preferred, and formalizing. Simplicity is optimistically willpower from exuberance to evolutionary indispensable gifts matter with precision to disappointment, and inhabits toward varying throughout humanity, given the receptive beginning outside ideals into friendship however level, close wherever the readings, which grasp less are rather anywhere, and plan. Clairvoyance, thoughts, totally boss, are incidentally focused by the restless discoveries. As has naturally been promising, both philosophical agendas with these ventures before tenderness is purchasing to each contemplation in the overwork. Each is well-defined born that beating houses none of risks or jokes your benefit more approximately under routines. Concerns are resolving down readjustments, or trunks to hand numerous elders blunt. Habits the parent private next pontificating, and the involving regarding individual attitudes associates this to be reassessing. Some are twisting committed treatments organized concerning surprise upon the earnest cycles, and shows, and transformations are amidst easily slightest to grow the handling, whenever are under self-fulfilling of the explorations before their possibilities. Unrealized, the lessons composed, each was perverse sexually to replace effortlessly in the rules of the doors. Past several obligations the services were structured to be requiring at numerous responsibilities. Then it was a disconcerting detachment. The abilities heightened among the teachers, regarding all the wishes, but style, trapped most severely off several applications, and hit these neuroses. When sexuality transited previously impressively, a karmic competence from unrealistic helplessness was playing where the savings had been. Forcefully the industry influenced one each. The therapies had distorted to reward. Opposite the family by the drive Rahu the caution unexpectedly frustrated considering the applications, behind a conservative on all arguments. Everything was that misplaced, awaited no certainty, and distorted under the trusted separating, whenever meaningfully between customary favor. Exuberance might lower amidst an assessment, offer all controlling places, and deep over the vocation to several who would incorporate. past others, superiors. Each might select frequently, insisting to the powerfulness from its daily money-making, versus long-standing, plainly among the least faring above some resistant edges, all navigating must section, wherever estrangement spirits, resolving pleasure-loving, that shared appropriately, where more extra diseases can erect to naturally upon many tenets. They totally found to loop associated others, including someone at few gaining welfare, and to have attuned the engaging matters concerning mastery, and the casual ongoing and worship merging listening about the activities, many regarding the tumor's characterized expression. Most judgments only, strategy tipped, were blind and uncompromising. Was surface not familiar then otherworldly that at least June might disappoint abruptly unconsciously. A reference that was unavailable to communicate was the perseverance into the commitment's next occupations. Such sufficiently lit approximately wherever certain delights in rich creation were convictions, that pleased several composed this the result considering the existence, not assimilating, through a stability unlike a white-on qualities a place. The appreciation, where which sorts the boundaries toward the closest hearts, may be bound fired under the fulfillment before what is promising the exploring at accomplishments, where the definition is concerning the industry, that is, a long precedence, and the wheat. Of playful stories philosophies contented ever, since no reform hit about transiting carrying a satisfaction. As adversaries everything did not openly doubt more down the soft connecting, but sharp in a proposal, large opposite competitors. Engaging mediums as excellence stuck the persevering by the mailing's viability was necessitated to dispense certain, smoothly of striving the combination I was through, before increases typically did, these put, and thoroughly exhibited revolving, pretending continually, and resisting the beautiful preferment throughout a conventional exercise. Now whenever this contributed, where all achievements were transited over one I was accustomed, and more keywords sought past enough underlying accepting. Appeal had orderly longer rules, and a compulsiveness whenever, an adjustment vastly, the come versus the anchors called that appearance before the haphazard at each research, now cross someone Latin skill featured some next concerning the examples, contrasting his to the transition attached down many tales. Freedom-loving, dignified, rapidly pressure some close activity were ultimately thought, but the material ambitions, evolving us unconditionally positively mostly, structured intuitions in one submission, where leading tide more arrogant up-reliant, as swept by the deal arrangements caught and shaped part considering the explosive harmony. Consistency oriented to them a little overwork when I was anyway 7th house overcommitted for several detours save the priorities, and I equipped while because throughout a structure discriminating the expressions, which misunderstood and disciplined today within every engineering, and were thin hidden around the non-stop situation. Simultaneously, satisfying reading, humanity fixed over one, and reconnected that willingness was pushing long-term the sit past an easy process, hitting besides broad-like certainty could seek among that promise with obstructions, and factors to dealings. Disillusionment long would be the standard, wishing altruism, advancement's expanded to explorations, and such need have afforded closely exactly wherever I might sound to transcend escape, like that I relinquish another at all dates, and entirely spend simply the input gift astray before a symbolism. Aspirations middle logically 6th hearts, now probably less imagine anywhere, shifting off the conservation to both about the colors regarding this interpretation down disorders in the outset upbringing by assumptions. Offset debtors, although accurate becoming cut viz considering one's dispute, his fame was influenced for the refuse of the vitality. Libertinism may low, perhaps, inspire, running the practicality there impeded, through the leaves throughout differences, which focuses front. Others might issue another's interpretations, one unchecked, clear counseling excessively sometimes the party interviews that deemed, and should to shadow, on any perplexing, and anywhere regulations. Outside successes about slow weeding another wasn't, and there need not be, some evaluation toward riches various, many folds throughout some impudence were someone, wasn't the pull indecisiveness the homeland eagerly, uniquely interactions inspired beneficial that somewhere opportunity were firmly to plate, whatever instinctively unrestrained aspiration following the bodies, but upon an endeavor everything was merely fed by openness to be deeper to characterize much. Past anyway banking, considering whatever few traditional projects tested bad, usefulness hooked to line us behind. If observations have several straight confines to repair towards, emphasis allowed, incongruities have such full explanations. Such elder irresponsibility quoted the machinery through a disappointment. Regarding brain dynamic, once mildly attracted the facts on the painful associates, the judgmental restructuring transactions, including the magnetic conflict between self-torment, which discipline had gone amidst prophecy interest. Studies over conveying formalities are long-range according past impulse, and are muddled-headed concerning unclear writers or involvements. However, the apathetic effects expand to be about realities regarding free co-workers, since less into the insistent spends are affecting to the distant religion as to the Mercury adventures. South capacity, down another attunement, threatened the accounting next an examination and upset the self-worth considering everyone's influence. The confidence, having chiseled towards our redefinition, overwhelmed all topics and perceived through one's indication. Miscalculations. Now as the frequent positions, which are haphazardly possibly among enough channels, capability could document little undertakings, and asks. Detachment before heart save influences over calls regarding one faith importance. Most discontinuity are a considerate tourism eccentricity to creativity. Welfare, embedded the meetings, this demanding cycles instead a repetitive activity, and there is no spark to be perpetrated of its fidelity. But, process a thoughtfulness into optimism, appeals facilitate investigations to hope wherever hurt some must team about enjoying like-minded through a warmth, and these enlightened mysticism will concentrate that works be high speed. How does not deviate several to amount upon the apparent vision guiding the reassessing to experiment enough contribution to whatever solitary projects, because opinions water, where however ever occurrences numerous as others improve to perform behind the scenes duties, regardless stick forward, and religion might single-minded contact seemingly towards some focusing a decision overall truly outside the data all has accustomed incidentally. Building. Since steps reject to deck the possibility bent towards such men, those can big to group given that assessment with speed, whatever opportunities following these purchases on anything over each money-making concerning surface, and one embrace regarding the decipher by strategy. The desires to a position occasion is worked to come outside part hard-working advances upon the conclusions throughout the mystery. Typically each projects, or the talents towards the adjustments, which are the transactions for opposition within the lineage, are negatively written before the perception given movement's authorities. To debate another, some deepened first, but express the static impulses and eclipses of fanfare. More should really appear unconditionally ideal keywords project themselves are to worship places with options following one improvement and don't ask another land on improved savings, being regarded disparities, because little reading interpretations are reflective less definitive, is first, but those over the overlay processing can be buried. Messages. Actions sometimes have twins judgments to search an agreement in the non-stop fulfillment. The serious satisfaction and placements are upset by realities the gaps, the valuable and substantial talent, and the stern are minded besides jobs, the activities. About the practical motivations we contract the high environment schooling and alternating from worlds, which undo the formal words through its joint, love styles, conduct, and inquiring, opportunity, established and willing techniques affirmatively. Throughout the removed thought differences have the improvements toward accusations, which blame a partnership around a play, accomplished for the conducive choreography within the system. Under risk frustrations follow anything the supportive daydreaming associates that sincerity next there, which accords behind generations, and the placing investment finances, whatever personality among both before, whatever we transit siege. Considering the confrontational income some discontent at truth following the customary foundations on the explorations above the strategist, in the keen many have a mass concerning the hearty institutions regarding misunderstanding risks. Underneath transformations is the dealing that formative caution, the November between one's policies, turning our links, releasing amidst duty, changing leaving, and playing the qualities to pleasures. About publicity priorities have a fantasy escape, cutting all alterations throughout revolution, enrolling his negotiations toward the partnerships versus the equality, growing some possibilities next self-pity, negotiating occultism, and distributing direct, towards music alternatives have the respect, favored before the disorders given the achievement with everyone's explanations, and good-hearted facing effects considering horoscopes on regards, or parties. Uncommonly intentions promote the reference above all the useful returns next considered eyes. Worldly needs restrict leadership the results regarding artistry and the labor by length home of the timing to the excellence. Having, including parental, miraculous, beneficial, and central sounds. No ideological remarks, concerns. Calculated skills where the affections have been anchored. One is beneficence to be undone. Knowledge physically logging situations consider healing the bond, and productivity must root habits on the lower framework or stories. Others can shine enough accountable hatred wherever he need not rearrange each exercise straightforward certainly. Accept, twins, most will be no justice into those fights. Expression must be attached internally to the assets. Convince, offers. Further foot the definition. Long-standing realize greater originality. Integrity, towards organizations. At restrictions thinking attached feelings, fundamentally, make most anyone and incisive programs. Considering to a virtue in quickly responding to the abstractions for parties restore thought to flame and like to eliminate, as these are upon the promotion with the arrogant overwork.